弟弟，你们就是我的梦想。But sometimes it's a little hard.
Joan Chen, welcome to the Awards Tour podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you about Dìdi. I did not actually catch this at Sundance, even though I was there this year. And then it was like one of those things where it's like everyone's talking about this movie with this adorable little boy and your incredible performance. And I hadn't seen it. And then I finally got to see it when it was approaching release. But tell me how you found this story, which again feels like a bit of a time capsule back to the early 2000s.
I received this beautiful letter from Sean that came with the script. The letter was talking about his relationship with his mom, his intention of this coming of age film also being a love letter to his own mom. And I was moved. And then I read the script. It was just a solid, beautiful, really well-written script. And no doubt, that's always the best beginning. And so that's how I got involved.
I think what's great about this is it's a different flavor of a coming of age, specifically the time period, but also sort of like the subject matter and the identity. And when I was getting ready for this, I heard that you actually found a lot of parallels to yourself being someone who was working out in California and has two sort of also American-born Chinese American children. So talk a little bit about how this paralleled your own sort of life a bit.
Yeah, when I was reading the script, I was like, oh, wow, my God, this is exactly how I'm feeling. Well, I was feeling. My children are older than Isaac, the actor in the film, but just the fact that I am an immigrant mother who raised two American children and how unsure I was and almost like making a lot of decisions based on fear. It's like if I didn't do this right, then, they're never going to get into a good school. They're never going to find a job. They will not find a husband. That everything you're doubting yourself. And whenever you feel like somehow they're unhappy, then you blame yourself and something, you didn't understand that caused their unhappiness, which sometimes it was true that there are certain times, for instance, my older daughter in preschool, and that was like Thanksgiving break. Then afterwards, she went back to school, and somehow everybody was talking about Thanksgiving, and the principal said, "Oh, Angela, how was your Thanksgiving?" And she said, we didn't have one. And then I had a little, the principal gave me a little talk to when I went to pick her up. It's like, it's a beautiful tradition. It's an American tradition. It would be nice that Angela would be able to experience it and not miss it. And I just felt like, oh my God, I'm not doing the right thing. And another time was that the same year or the year after, about Santa Claus. And so eventually I thought, what is this silly thing? I had no feelings for Thanksgiving, no, nor Christmas.
Yeah.
And I was like, lying to little children. What, Santa Claus. And I sat her down, also gave her a talk, like, okay, this is a story, this is a myth, and I didn't expect that she cried for the entire morning of Christmas. And she kept saying with snot coming out of her, this is all a lie. This is all a lie. And I felt so horrible. I just felt like, okay, you're 6, you can know this now. But I was how wrong I was. And I tried to resurrect Santa afterwards. And the next day I was like, oh, Angela, I'm so sorry. There was something else I did find in the fireplace. I just didn't know, I didn't see, but you should go take a look. Maybe that was something Santa gave you. And I was trying to leave a note and try to resurrect it. Just all these things I didn't know how to do. And then you hurt your children's feelings
Yeah.
like that.
Unintentionally, really, obviously.
Unintentionally,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
unintentionally.
It's so funny that you mentioned that too, because I think that was the thing that I really liked about this particular Asian mother sort of film. Look, there's been a few, I would say, and there's nothing against those performances and those sort of things, but I think even you admitted that this was a softer approach to that. The immigrant mom, like, yes, she was fearful, but it wasn't that. I think you even said, like, you didn't want her to be a tiger mom. So I'd love for you to talk about those little nuances you wanted to put into this particular representation in this story, because I think a lot of people have identified how that made it more authentic, that she was a different touch than what we'd seen.
Yeah, I mean, the popular imagination of an Asian mother, the matriarch in like the Joy Luck Club, or the, Tiger Mom, or the matriarch in what's the Crazy
Rich Asians and like those. Yeah, yeah.
And those were fun characters, but so many of the Asian mothers, including myself, that I know are the way like Sean's mom. I was spending a lot of time with Sean's mom. She is playful, gentle, artistic, soft-spoken, and patient. There is just a different reality and not stereotypical. And that was the route I wanted to go.
Yeah, I really felt that was also why I kind of like fell in love with the character. The very last scene, well, not one of the very last scenes, that moment between you and the young actor Isaac, when you guys are on the bed, it's really like such a pivotal moment between the two of them. I mean, it's kind of like the heart of the film, and that conversation between the two of them, I really think gets why people have sort of fallen in love with the dynamic, not only of these characters, but watching you two on screen. I'd love for you to talk about that scene and sort of setting it up for it, because in addition to how much it means for, like, I think the overall movie, I also think that was also a difficult moment. Not difficult, but you're having a young actor on set and like helping them through that moment too, because with how many credits and how long you've been doing this, what this scene sort of means, but getting him prepared for that moment.
Yeah, Isaac is a natural, and he actually has grown. He was really grown up during the time of this shoot. He spent a great deal of time together, like living in the same hotel room with his own mother. As a teen boy, that is not an easy experience, but at the same time, his mother was there for him, whatever. And so that was an intense time they spent together on set. That kind of also prepared him. And I remember the first, they shot like for a week before I appeared. And a week is all like him with his friends, all the scenes of bombing the mailbox and the skating, all the prancing around. And all of a sudden I arrived on set, and the first scene we did together was the scene that we fought in the car, a very intense scene. And afterwards, Isaac was like sitting there. I was like, whoa, it's like the adult has arrived,
Yeah.
that this is serious work is about to begin. And I think by the time we shot the scene in my bedroom, talking with him about my dreams, he's already gotten into the groove with me. I love that scene.
Yeah.
For me, being an artist who was also trying to spend more time, raise the children, I found out how difficult it was for me not to work. And when the children were young, I try not to leave home. And, for film work, every film you do, you leave, you go on location, and you somehow couldn't feel fulfilled without that creative output, without doing something creative, that you long to work, that you're missing an important part of your life, but also you're the only one who could raise your children. So that kind of sacrifice, I felt deeply. It resonated deeply with me. And the character Chung Seng in the film is an artist who would like to just spend time painting and probably explore New York, and having her dreams just dashed in the process. I felt it very, very much. But in the end, you're also gratified that you raised two wonderful children.
Yeah.
That conflict, I think, for every working mother is, everybody feels it. Although Chung Sing, the character, is a stay-at-home mom. And so she's totally given the other part away because she is the sole caretaker of not only the two children, but also the mother-in-law. And so she's isolated, staying at home, that in a way resulted in her being sort of ill-assimilated, not
Yeah.
assimilated to the American culture. That part is like so many immigrant moms that I know, just
The
making
isolation. Yeah. The
yeah, the
isolation of
isolation.
that they
Yeah.
give up to basically give their kids the world, maybe. Listen, the feels, and you want to call your mom at the end of this one. Let's just go ahead and put that out there. Everybody kind of wants to make that moment. It's funny, we're doing this interview and it's like mid-October right now, and this is one of the first like cool days in Los Angeles where it's like, okay, the seasons are changing. And I hope this is like a good path to go down, because I think about you at this time every year. And again, because I love autumn in New York, like
Oh,
legitimately.
wow.
And this is the thing, like I worry because I'm like, I know it was like maybe at the time it didn't get the best like critical reception. Like I get it. But like for me, when the blankets and the sweaters come out, you put that on, you put on Harry Met Sally. You know what I mean? Like these are the sweater fit movies. I'd love for you to talk about that because I don't think a lot of people knew that you directed that. It has Winona Ryder, Richard Gere, and I think you can probably speak to the fact that it wasn't received well at the time, but I still see it on and I see people talking about like all the time, which is a better serve, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't critically well received. And I think some of the critics who were reviewing my first film, Social the Sent Down Girl, so positively, put me on the 10 directors to watch and all of that. I seem like, oh my God, I disappointed everybody because the film is so sappy. It's a very sappy film.
But some of us want that. Give us
Yeah,
the food we want to
yeah,
eat, though, you know?
yeah, yeah.
I really did love that. I know that you had directed other things since then. Do you yearn to get back in the director's chair? Is that something that's on the horizon for you? I saw something on IMDb, but sometimes IMDb lies.
Yeah, no, I did direct three films in China, but the most important film is still stuck in censorship.
Hmm.
And I recently published a nonfiction, more autobiographical material book in China that is being very well received. So I'm thinking of, really wanting to make a Roma-like film of the childhood and adolescence period. So I am still thinking that. In a way, though, I'm busier than ever, like acting in North America, because for a while I did go back to China to work,
Yeah.
because things just didn't seem to be happening for me here. But this year, just a lot of good projects coming my way,
I
and
love that.
we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too, because I did notice that where your filmography, you've consistently worked since the 70s, but you've been really global with it. Like you've done films in really all over, but going to China, coming back here, working in Canada, doing stuff like Marco Polo, where I think that was a European production. How do you keep yourself that versatile with your acting projects? Because some folks, I think, would not look at it that way. I guess it's just the hunger to work.
It is mostly just the hunger to work. And
Yeah.
also, when the children were young, going back to China to work seemed easier because I could time like summer vacation, or, I was picking projects not because of its own quality, but it's like the timing. Like,
Yeah.
like winter break the whole month, that we could do something, or
Yeah.
summer break something, I could do something timed with raising children. There are also, I believe in practicing. And so there are projects that may not be completely fantastic or ideal, but if you don't practice your craft, how are you gonna, when that thing arrives, how are you gonna know how to do it? You get rusty.
Yeah.
That's why I continued to work, but I'm very, very fortunate, getting the parts in Australia and Canada, and some of them I love. Actually, the film that I did in Canada, I'm not in Australia, called The Home Song Stories, which to me is like, for my own performance, I would say it's like one of the highlights, even though people here have never seen it. But it's
Well, now we're gonna talk about it.
and I've just finished a Montreal film, a Quebec film, also a really challenging, deeply challenging and rich character that's in Canada. That's a Canadian film. And so I feel fortunate that
Yeah.
I could go to different countries to work. And also, filmmaking in a way is very international. I mean, even as different culturally as United States and China, filmmaking people are very similar. It's almost like we're our own like circus type of people. And so it's not that hard for me to just go to different cultures to work. And I love it.
I want to talk about one other stop on your filmography. Basically, I'm talking about the stuff from your work that I like that has been like maybe
Okay.
a few years old. And like, we're going to talk Dìdi, of course, but I'm like, I have not had that much opportunity to speak to people that were involved in Judge Dredd. And that is another one of my movies that I'm like absolutely obsessed with. Like, your fight with Diane at the end is like still one of those things. So if you have anything from that production, because I know it was like a crazy production, and that's another one where like that one did not get the reception, but I can tell you for a fact, Judge Dredd lives on the cult classic, like so bad it's good, like that thing. Every time I talk about Judge Dredd, people talk about it because it is just, I feel like it's almost like Starship Troopers. Like it's so big that I love it even more. So do you have any memories from that one?
I had no idea. I had no idea. What do I remember about that one? One great, well, not the work details. I do enjoy fights. Actually, in my younger days, I was offered two action films that I thought I wanted to do drama. What a mistake. Actually, I had the physique. I think I still, I'm very athletic, and loved the fight scenes. I love to do fight scenes in the movie. So that was very enjoyable. And the second thing I loved was like Sylvester Stallone had a golf training, almost like a golf ranch on set, had a coach. And so I was getting golf lessons. I was getting like from this like really best coach. I was getting the golf lessons. What
Oh
else?
my gosh.
Because it's
No,
in
that's a
London.
good
It's
one.
it's like the entire shoot was in London. And so that was also really, really wonderful.
Oh, I love that movie. Banging soundtrack, and it is just camp delight. I love it so much. But it's crazy because you've done, I mean, look, The Last Emperor, and working with Bertolucci, and like just the various filmmakers that you've gotten to work with, David Lynch. I looked when I was getting ready for this. You've toured so many different aspects of filmmaking, from television work to series stuff to the streamers to working in China, working internationally, and then working on some of the most like impactful pieces of cinema along the way. I'm curious for you, of all these great filmmakers, directors, and collaborators that you've worked with, what has been the best sort of like, note that you've gotten from a director, or advice that you've gotten from an actor on set that you've found particularly informative for how you've conducted yourself throughout your career, or just like a moment that you sort of held dear of like, maybe, hey, don't do this. Like maybe it was like a lesson in opposite, or maybe it was somebody telling you like, hey, this is a path for this.
Bernardo Bertolucci was one of the best directors for performers. He would use really good, concrete things, not just like, oh, you're extremely sad, or oh, it's just some of the directors, they say things that's not going to help you process the actual work. But he was one. I remember the first day I arrived on the set, it wasn't for my own character. That day I didn't work. I arrived onto the set in Beijing, and I went to visit the set. And on that day, they were filming a scene where the young empress, the 3-year-old empress, his mother was holding him to give him away. And it's very sad for her, but the actress is not a professional actress. She was a worker in the hotel we were staying. And
Wow.
so, yeah, so she was of the Manchu blood, and Bernardo just saw her. And so, that would be the mother. And so she never had an experience. And I see how Bernardo talked her through. And I understood at that time that certain motion, he was leading her through how she should be walking. And then at certain moment when she sees the horse carrying the baby away, and when she turns the head, and then I realized just the right movement, it actually expressed everything on screen. So you don't tell an actor like, oh, everybody can imagine losing your own child. You don't need to speak anymore. But for this non-professional actress, she doesn't know how to exactly express that feeling. And so Bernardo is the kind to give her an action when the camera catches it, it's all there.
Wow.
And so for my scene of eating the orchids, when I was feeling extreme sadness, disappointment, and also madness, but refrained because it's at a ceremony and she is the empress. And so for her to sit there to eat the orchid, non-dialogue scene, so Bernardo could actually also talk during the shoot. And I just remembered, I don't even remember whether the action of eating orchids was in the script or not, but the character I picked up the orchid, and Bernardo said, you stuff it in your mouth. It's not like you eat. Oh, you think of it, empress being more like dainty, graceful, everything. She stuffs it in her mouth. And just that verb somehow informs all the complex feelings that she was feeling. And it helped. And the moment I start doing the action, I just felt that the tears just pour out. And so there were a few like great directors who could help an actor this way. A lot probably don't.
Well, you were blessed to have a few. Also, I think I counted at least 4 to 5 empresses on your filmography. There is something about you that screams regality. So I think that is going to be, if that's the type of typecasting I would get, I'd be like, yes, that is right. I have a face for royalty, and you do too, ma'am.
Thank you. But interestingly, though, after The Last Empress came out and it won 9 Oscars, I still like was not getting any calls for jobs. Like still pretty dry. And I was thinking, gee, of course, in the United States, they don't have a lot of Chinese empress like for me to play. It's like people didn't know how to use me.
I just need to give you a few more years. I mean, you just had one with Marco Polo not that long ago.
Yeah,
listen.
that's right. I mean, time's different now. I mean, things are getting much better. Hollywood has caught up on, telling stories from different perspectives, different ethnic groups. Back then, though, it was hard. Yeah.
I'm glad they've changed that, because now we get to see you in incredible things like Dìdi, and I hope to see more of you on the awards tour. Thank you, Ms. Chen. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.